My barn burned down at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. The fire marshal called it electrical, but I knew the truth. 3 hours before the flames, I watched the HOA president on my security camera directing two men with gasoline cans to different corners of my barn. "Make it look electrical," she said. Her name was Victoria Marsh. For 2 years, she'd been systematically destroying families in my town through fake violations and predatory fines. 14 properties stolen, millions in fraud. I was supposed to be number 15, but I had evidence, video footage, financial records, everything needed to bring her down. The problem? She owned the police chief, the prosecutor, everyone. So I did something desperate. I rebuilt my barn even bigger and dared her to come after me. What happened next became a federal case that exposed corruption across 3 counties. Stay until the end because the final takedown is insane. Comment where you're watching from. Let's see how far this fight against HOA corruption reaches. I bought 8 acres of heaven in Pine Ridge Valley with every dollar I'd ever saved. Green mountains rose behind my property like ancient guardians. A crystal lake bordered the eastern edge, so clear you could see trout swimming 20 feet down. Grass rolled toward pine forests that stretched for miles. The air smelled like cedar and possibility. I'm Marcus, 42 years old, woodworker, 3rd-generation craftsman. My grandfather taught me to shape wood with my hands before I could ride a bike. When he died, he left me his tools, vintage hand planes, chisels with bone handles, a workbench he'd built in 1952. I built my barn myself, 1,200 square feet, natural wood finish that glowed golden in sunset. Every beam placed with precision, every joint perfect. That barn was my workshop, my business, my legacy. I made custom furniture that sold nationwide. Walnut tables, cherrywood cabinets, pieces that would outlive their owners. Life was perfect, until that August morning. I walked to my barn at 6 a.m. carrying coffee and found the door hanging open. My stomach dropped. I ran inside. Nothing stolen, but everything felt wrong. Tools moved slightly. Sawdust disturbed in patterns that weren't mine. My grandfather's workbench. Someone had rifled through the drawers. My hands shook as I checked security footage. 2:47 a.m. A hooded figure walked across my property. No hesitation. No fear. They moved like they owned the place. Straight to my barn. The lock clicked open. They had a key somehow. Inside for 18 minutes. Then gone. I called the police. Deputy showed up 3 hours later, bored expression, didn't even look at the footage. "Kids," he said. "Happens all the time." They had a key. He shrugged. "Change your locks." 3 nights later, it happened again. Same hooded figure. Same confident stride. This time they stayed longer. 42 minutes inside my barn. When I checked the interior that morning, my prized walnut slab had fresh scratches. 8 feet long. Irreplaceable. Worth $3,000. I installed motion sensors. Better cameras. Commercial-grade locks. Night 4, they bypassed everything. How? I stood in my barn that morning feeling violated. Exposed. Someone was hunting me, and I didn't know why. My neighbor, old Mr. Hendricks, knocked on my door that afternoon. 76 years old. Lived here 40 years. "Son, you might want to check with the HOA." "What HOA?" His face went pale. "You don't know?" "Know what?" "They've been asking questions about your barn. About you." Victoria Marsh came by my place twice last week. My blood went cold. "Who's Victoria Marsh?" Mr. Hendricks looked at the mountains like they might save him. "HOA President." "She's. You need to be careful, Marcus. Very careful." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking cameras. Watching shadows. At 2:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I pulled up the feed. The hooded figure stood in my barn. But this time they looked directly at the camera. And waved. Slow. Deliberate. Mocking. Then they walked to my grandfather's workbench and spent 3 hours doing something I couldn't see. When I went out at dawn, I found muddy boot prints leading toward the lake. And a business card placed carefully on my workbench. Victoria Marsh. HOA President. Pine Ridge Community Association. Written on the back in red ink. "We need to talk." She arrived at noon in a white SUV that looked like it cost more than my truck. Victoria Marsh stepped out wearing designer sunglasses and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mid-40s. Blonde hair pulled tight. Expensive watch catching sunlight. She carried a leather folder like a weapon. "Marcus, right? I'm Victoria, HOA President." Her voice was sugar over steel. "We need to discuss your property. I'm not part of any HOA. Her smile widened. Oh, sweetie. You absolutely are. She opened the folder. Page after page of regulations. Codes. Rules I'd never seen. My vision blurred reading them. No structures over 400 square feet without written approval. My barn was 1,200. No commercial activity on residential property. My furniture business was explicitly commercial. Mandatory landscaping standards. My natural wildflower meadow violated Section 4.7. Approved exterior paint colors only. My barn's wood finish wasn't on the list. This is insane. Victoria's eyes glittered. This is compliance. You have 30 days to submit a plan addressing these violations, or we begin fining you $500 per day. My deed doesn't mention any HOA. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made my skin crawl. Your deed is valid. But the HOA covenant predates your ownership. The previous owner had a grandfather exemption that expired when the property transferred. You should have done better research. She handed me a business card, the same one left on my workbench. 30 days, Marcus. The clock started yesterday. She drove away, leaving dust hanging in the air. I called my real estate agent immediately. She went silent when I explained. Marcus, I need to check something. I'll call you back. She didn't call back. I spent the afternoon reading every word of that folder. Each page worse than the last. Parking restrictions, noise ordinances, building codes that contradicted county law but apparently superseded it. They had me trapped. That night, the break-ins intensified. Now they were taking things. Small tools disappeared. Photographs vanished from my workshop walls. My grandfather's favorite hammer, gone. I watched the footage in real time. 3 figures now, working with precision. One of them was definitely female. Average height, moving like she'd done this before. They knew exactly where my cameras were positioned. One figure walked directly to the newest hidden camera I'd installed that afternoon and placed tape over the lens. They were watching me somehow. Listening maybe. I checked my phone, my computer, looking for spyware, tracking apps, anything. Nothing. But they knew things they shouldn't know. At 3 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. Stop fighting. You can't win. Sell to Victoria and walk away. My hands shook with rage. I texted back, who is this? No response. I pulled up the security footage again. Watched the hooded figures move through my barn. Studied their movements. The female figure paused at my grandfather's workbench. Ran her hand across the surface like she was measuring it. Then she looked up at the camera I thought was hidden. And smiled. Not a friendly smile. A predator's smile. She knew I was watching. I zoomed in on the footage. Enhanced the image as much as possible. For just one frame, light caught her face. Victoria Marsh. In my barn. At 3 a.m. Stealing my grandfather's tools. I hired an attorney the next morning. Benjamin Foster. Real estate law specialist. Cost $300 just to meet with him. I showed him everything. The deed. The HOA documents. The footage of Victoria in my barn. He watched in silence. Then closed his laptop. Marcus, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. My stomach twisted. There's a legal loophole. 15 years ago, the county rezoned this area. The HOA used that rezoning to retroactively claim jurisdiction over properties that weren't originally included. That's legal. Barely. But it's been upheld in state court twice. Fighting it would cost minimum $50,000. Maybe more. And you'd probably lose. The room spun. What are my options? Comply with their demands. Or sell. I put everything into this place. I know. I'm sorry. I left his office $3,000 poorer and completely trapped. Victoria's violation notices started arriving daily. Your grass is 1/4 inch over regulation height. $200 fine. Your truck is parked 6 inches into the easement. $500 fine. Your outdoor work table constitutes an unapproved structure. $1,000 fine. Each envelope felt like a knife. I was hemorrhaging money. My savings evaporating. Meanwhile, the barn sabotage escalated. Wood glue bottles left open overnight. Ruined. Saw blades mysteriously dulled. Custom orders I'd spent weeks on damaged beyond repair. I started losing clients. A commission for a dining set. Canceled because I missed the deadline after someone poured water on the wood, making it warp. A cabinet order. Canceled because the joints were sabotaged with sand in the glue. My reputation was dying. My business was dying. I was dying inside. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed night vision binoculars and hid in the tree line bordering my property. Waiting. At 2:47 a.m., they always came at 2:47. Three figures appeared. They moved like soldiers. Coordinated. Practiced. I photographed them, but couldn't get clear faces in the darkness. They didn't break into my barn. They used a key. A key that only I should have. I watched them measure everything. Wall lengths. Floor space. Foundation depth. Taking notes. Photographs. Why? One figure was definitely Victoria. I'd recognize her movements anywhere now. After an hour, they left. I waited 10 minutes. Then checked my barn. They'd measured every inch of the structure. Left chalk marks on the floor showing dimensions. Then I saw it. Dropped in the sawdust near the door. A master key card. Heavy plastic. Official looking. Embossed on the front. Pine Ridge HOA Master Access. Victoria's name printed at the bottom. This was how they were getting in. The HOA claimed legal right to inspect properties. They'd given themselves keys to every building in Pine Ridge, including mine. My hands trembled holding that card. They weren't just breaking in. They were claiming legal authority to invade my property whenever they wanted. I photographed the card, then placed it back exactly where I found it. Let them think they'd gotten away clean. But now I had proof. Proof Victoria Marsh was personally entering my property in the middle of the night. Proof the HOA was systematically sabotaging my business. Proof this was personal. I just didn't know why yet. The HOA meeting happened in the Pine Ridge Community Center overlooking the lake. 20 homeowners showed up. Most looked uncomfortable, scared even. Victoria sat at the head table like a queen holding court. I walked in carrying the master key card in my pocket and rage in my chest. When my turn came to speak, I stood. Victoria's been breaking into my barn. The room went silent. Victoria's expression didn't change. That's a serious accusation. I pulled out the key card, held it up for everyone to see. I found this in my barn at 3 a.m. after watching 3 people on my security cameras measuring my property without permission. Gasps around the room. Victoria's smile was terrifying. That's HOA property. You stole it. I could have you arrested. I have video footage of you. The HOA covenant grants us inspection rights for code enforcement. Everything we've done is legal oversight. What you call breaking in, we call compliance verification. Mr. Hendricks stood up, his voice shaking. She did the same thing to the Johnson family last year. Harassed them until they sold. Victoria's eyes flashed. The Johnsons were in severe violation. They chose to sell rather than comply with reasonable regulations. I stepped closer to her table. Why are you measuring my barn's foundation? The room went dead silent. Victoria gathered her papers. This meeting is adjourned. Answer the question. I don't owe you explanations. You're in violation of 7 codes. Address them or face consequences. But I'd done my research. Spent every night for a week digging through public records. Your husband owns Marsh Development Corporation. Victoria froze. 3 lakefront properties in Pine Ridge have been forced into sale in the past 2 years, all bought by shell companies. I traced those companies back to your family trust. The room erupted. Victoria stood, face twisted with fury. You have no proof. And now you've slandered me in front of witnesses. Enjoy your lawsuit, Marcus. She stormed out. Half the room followed her. The other half stared at me with wide eyes. An elderly woman approached, crying. She did it to us too. We couldn't afford to fight. A middle-aged man. She manufactured violations on my mother's property. Mom died of stress-related heart attack 6 months later. One by one, they told their stories. Victoria was systematically targeting vulnerable homeowners. Elderly people, disabled veterans, single parents, anyone who couldn't fight back legally. She'd create impossible violations, find them into bankruptcy, then offer predatory buyouts, pennies on the dollar for properties worth hundreds of thousands. Her husband's company would acquire the land through shell corporations, develop luxury vacation homes, sell them for massive profits. It was a perfect criminal conspiracy, and I was next on her list. I drove home that night feeling vindicated but terrified. I'd exposed her publicly. That made me dangerous. At midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. You made a mistake. Victoria's voice. Ice cold. I have evidence. Financial records. Witness testimony. You have nothing that will hold up in court. And now you've made this personal. The line went dead. I checked my security cameras immediately. Everything looked normal. I went to bed but couldn't sleep. At 3:47 a.m., I smelled smoke. I ran outside. My barn was burning. Flames 30 feet high. orange and red against the black sky. Everything I owned, everything I'd built, everything my grandfather left me, burning. I stood in the smoking ruins as dawn broke. The mountains reflected in the lake. Pink and orange sky, beautiful and mocking. Everything was gone. My grandfather's tools, melted into unrecognizable lumps of metal. The hand planes he'd used for 50 years. The chisels with bone handles. His workbench reduced to ash. My custom furniture orders. Months of work. Thousands of dollars. Gone. My business. My livelihood. My future. Destroyed. The fire marshal showed up at 7 a.m. Looked around for 15 minutes. Electrical fire. Happens with old wiring. My wiring was brand new. Professionally installed. Inspected last month. He shrugged. Happens anyway. He left. No investigation. No questions. Nothing. Victoria arrived at 10 a.m. She stepped out of her SUV wearing a concerned expression that didn't match the eagerness in her eyes. Marcus, I'm so sorry about your barn. Truly tragic. I said nothing. Perhaps now is the time to discuss options. Fresh start. No more violations to worry about. She pulled out a document. I'm prepared to offer $180,000 for your entire property. 8 acres of prime lakefront land. Given your financial situation and the outstanding violation fines, it's incredibly generous. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman burned my barn. Destroyed my life. And now stood in the ashes offering to buy my land for 1/3 of its value. Get off my property. Her concerned expression vanished. You're making a mistake. Get off my property. She smiled. Suit yourself. But the fines continue. $500 per day adds up quickly. She drove away. I spent the afternoon sifting through debris, trying to salvage anything. My hands were black with soot. My lungs burned from smoke residue still hanging in the air. Then I found something impossible. The fire had started in 3 separate locations simultaneously. I'm not an arson expert, but I'd done enough woodworking to understand burn patterns. This wasn't electrical. This was intentional. I kept digging through the wreckage. Beneath where my grandfather's workbench had stood, I found something that shouldn't exist. A fireproof safe, hidden under the floor. Professional installation. Heavy duty. I didn't put it there. My heart pounded as I cleared away debris and forced it open. Inside, USB drives. Folders stuffed with documents. Photographs of Victoria meeting with county officials in parking lots. Cash payment records. Forged inspection reports. Evidence of everything. Years of corruption. Documented. Photographed. Recorded. Someone had been using my barn as a dead drop. The break-ins weren't about vandalism. Someone was leaving me proof of Victoria's crimes. That's why they kept coming back. That's why they targeted my grandfather's workbench specifically. They were hiding evidence right under my nose. But who? And why me? I photographed everything with my phone. Uploaded it to cloud storage. Then I carefully returned the safe to exactly where I found it. Covered it with debris. If someone planted this evidence, they'd come back for it eventually. I needed to know who my mysterious ally was. That night, I slept in my truck parked where I could watch the barn ruins. At 2:47 a.m., a figure appeared. Female. Moving carefully through the wreckage. She went straight to where the safe was hidden. I turned on my truck's headlights. She froze. Spun around. Looked directly at me. Then ran. I chased her into the woods. Wait. I'm not going to hurt you. She stopped. Turned. Hands raised. You found it. Her voice shook. Who are you? Someone who lost everything to Victoria Marsh. Just like you're about to. Her name was Rachel Turner. Late 30s. Weathered face. Eyes that had seen too much suffering. We sat in my truck as she told her story. 2 years ago, she owned the property next to mine. 5 acres. Beautiful homestead where she raised horses. Victoria targeted her through the HOA. Same tactics. Manufactured violations. Impossible fines. Systematic harassment. Rachel fought back. Hired lawyers. Drained her savings. Lost anyway. The legal system was designed to favor people with money. Victoria had infinite resources. Rachel didn't. She lost her property. Her business. Her marriage collapsed under the financial stress. She'd been living in her truck ever since. Working cash jobs. Surviving. And investigating Victoria obsessively. I've spent 2 years documenting her crimes, Rachel said. Every property she stole. Every official she bribed. Every family she destroyed. Why hide evidence in my barn? Because you're the first person with both the resources and the backbone to fight her. Everyone else was elderly or disabled or too poor to hire attorneys. You're different. I'm broke too now. Rachel shook her head. You still have fight in you. I can see it. That's why I chose you. You burned my barn. No. Her voice was sharp. Victoria did that. I tried to warn you. I sent those text messages. Told you she'd escalate. I remembered the anonymous texts. Don't trust the police. Check the county records. That was Rachel. Why not just give me the evidence directly? Because Victoria has eyes everywhere. If she knew I was helping you, she'd make you disappear. Car accident. Hunting mishap. She's done it before. My blood went cold. What? Robert Martinez, 72 years old, fought Victoria's buyout offer. Died in a single-car accident 3 weeks later. Sheriff ruled it driver error. You think Victoria? I know Victoria. She doesn't just destroy property. She destroys people. Rachel pulled out her phone, showed me photographs I'd never seen. 15 families, forced out of their homes. An elderly couple who'd lived in Pine Ridge for 40 years. Gone. A disabled veteran whose service dog was seized by animal control for HOA violations. Gone. A young mother whose children's playground was deemed a non-compliant structure. Gone. Family after family. Destroyed systematically. This isn't just about money, Rachel said. This is about power. Victoria enjoys breaking people. It's personal for her. We sat in silence. The mountain sky was turning gray with dawn. What's on those USB drives? I asked. Everything. Financial records showing Victoria's husband paid county officials under the table. Recordings of her bribing the fire marshal. Forged documents she used to claim HOA authority over properties that should be exempt. Why hasn't this gone to the authorities? Rachel's laugh was bitter. The county prosecutor is her cousin. The sheriff plays golf with her husband. State police won't touch it without federal involvement. And FBI needs more evidence than I have. How much more? We need her caught committing a crime we can document in real time. Something so blatant, even her connections can't protect her. I looked at the ruins of my barn. An idea formed. Dangerous. Possibly stupid. But I was out of options. What if we make her come after me so aggressively she makes a mistake? Rachel stared at me. You want to bait her? I'm going to rebuild my barn. Bigger than before. Break every HOA rule. Make it impossible for her to ignore. She'll destroy you. I met her eyes. She already did. Now I destroy her. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. Actually smiled. Okay, let's burn her empire down. Rachel and I worked from a rented storage unit on the edge of town. She'd spent 2 years building an investigation that covered every wall. Photographs. Documents. String connecting Victoria to dozens of crimes. It was obsessive. Detailed. Perfect. It's not just land theft, Rachel explained. Victoria's husband has county contracts worth millions. Every property she forces into sale gets developed into luxury vacation homes. They're transforming Pine Ridge from a working-class community into an exclusive resort. She showed me the financials. $8 million in the past 3 years alone. 15 families destroyed, Rachel continued. She pointed to photographs. The Hendersons, married 62 years, lost their home of 4 decades. Mr. Henderson had a stroke 2 months later. Another photo. James Wu, veteran, Purple Heart recipient. Victoria had his PTSD service dog seized for HOA violations. James tried to fight. Ended up homeless. Another. Sarah Mitchell, single mother, 3 kids. Victoria declared her children's playground an unapproved structure. Sarah couldn't afford the fines or the legal battle. Every photograph was a knife in my chest. These weren't statistics. They were people. Real families whose lives Victoria destroyed for profit. We have everything, Rachel said. Financial records. Forged documents. Testimony from 14 victims. Recordings of her bribing county officials. Then why hasn't she been arrested? Rachel's face darkened. The county prosecutor is her cousin. State police won't touch it without federal involvement. FBI needs irrefutable evidence of a crime in progress. What does that mean? We need to catch her doing something so illegal, so blatant, that even her connections can't protect her. I stared at the wall of evidence. Years of work. Years of Rachel's life. I have an idea. Rachel turned to me. What if we make her attack me so aggressively that she commits a crime we can document in real time? You want to provoke her? I'm going to rebuild my barn. 2,000 square feet. Paint it bright red. Install commercial equipment. Add exterior lighting that blazes all night. Break every single HOA rule. Rachel grabbed my arm. She'll financially destroy you. The fines alone. I'll take out a construction loan using my land as collateral. If this fails, you lose everything permanently. I met her eyes. I already lost everything. Now I'm playing offense. Rachel studied me, then slowly nodded. Okay, but we do this smart. Hidden cameras everywhere. Audio recording. Witnesses in position. We document every move she makes. We spent the next week planning. Rachel mapped out camera positions, identified witness vantage points, created a communication system. I met with a construction crew, took out a loan that made my hands shake signing the paperwork. $75,000 borrowed against my land. If this plan failed, I'd be bankrupt and homeless. But if it worked, we'd take down a criminal empire. The construction started on a Monday. By Tuesday, Victoria showed up. Her face was purple with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? I smiled. Building my workshop. Beautiful, isn't it? You don't have approval. You're violating 12 separate codes. Sue me. Her eyes went cold. Oh, Marcus. I'm going to do so much worse than sue you. She stormed off. The violation notices started immediately. $500 per day. Then $1,000. Then $2,000. I documented everything. Every notice. Every fine. Every threat. Rachel watched from her van parked down the road, cameras rolling. Victoria brought the county inspector. He wrote false violations. Rachel caught him on camera accepting cash from Victoria. Victoria brought the fire marshal. He threatened to condemn the structure. Rachel recorded him admitting Victoria promised him compensation. Every official who showed up added evidence to our case. Victoria was getting desperate. Sloppy. Exactly what we needed. But I didn't realize how far she'd go until she showed up at midnight with two men I'd never seen. They carried gasoline cans. My new barn rose like a monument to defiance. 2,000 square feet. Painted bright red, visible from the entire valley. Commercial equipment installed. A massive sign advertising my furniture business. Exterior lights that could be seen from 3 miles away. It was beautiful. Excessive. Perfect. A middle finger to Victoria that she couldn't ignore. The fines escalated daily. $2,000 per day became $3,000. Then $5,000. I was hemorrhaging money. But I documented everything. Rachel and I had cameras positioned everywhere. Hidden in trees. Mounted on poles disguised as trail markers. Inside the barn and equipment housings. Audio recorders and waterproof cases buried in the ground. We were ready. Victoria visited daily now. Each time angrier than the last. You're finished, Marcus. I'll take everything from you. Try. Her rage was intoxicating. She was losing control. That made her dangerous, but also vulnerable. Week 2 of construction, she brought the county inspector again. This structure is unsafe. I'm shutting it down immediately. I turned on my phone's camera. On what grounds? He fumbled. Multiple violations. Name one specific code. He couldn't. Rachel caught the whole exchange from her van, including the moment Victoria pulled him aside and handed him an envelope. Week 3, the fire marshal returned. Electrical isn't up to code. I have the inspection certificate right here. Signed by your department. His face went red. That inspection was premature. I'm revoking it. On what basis? He threatened me. Told me accidents happen to people who don't cooperate. Rachel got every word on audio. Victoria's network was crumbling. Her officials were making mistakes. Getting caught lying on camera. But she still had one card to play. The nuclear option. It happened on a Friday night. 11:47 p.m. Rachel and I were both monitoring the cameras remotely. Her from the storage unit. Me from my truck parked a mile away. Victoria's SUV pulled up to my property. 2 men got out with her. Not county officials. Not anyone I recognized. They wore dark clothes. Moved like professionals. They carried gasoline cans. My blood turned to ice. Rachel, are you seeing this? I'm recording everything. Stay where you are. I watched Victoria walk around my barn with the 2 men. She pointed to different corners. The audio was crystal clear. Make it look electrical. Same as last time. And make absolutely sure nothing survives. She was ordering them to burn my barn. On camera. With audio. Federal arson conspiracy. We had her. Rachel, call 911. Already dialing. But then everything went wrong. One of Victoria's men spotted something. He walked toward the tree line where Rachel had cameras hidden. He found one, ripped it down. Then he radioed Victoria. "We've got surveillance. Professional setup." Victoria's head snapped up. She scanned the area. Her eyes locked on Rachel's van parked down the road. "Get them." The two men ran toward Rachel's position. I heard her engine start through my phone. Heard tires screech. "Rachel, get out of there." "I'm trying." "There." Gunshots. 3 shots. Loud cracks echoing across the valley. "Rachel." Her phone went dead. I floored my truck toward her last position. Called 911 myself. Shots fired. Pine Ridge Valley Road. "Officer needs assistance." I reached Rachel's van. It was empty. Door hanging open. Her phone on the ground. Screen cracked. Blood on the steering wheel. Not much, but enough. I heard sirens in the distance. But I also heard something else. Footsteps in the woods. Someone running. Rachel or her attackers? I grabbed a flashlight from my truck and ran into the darkness. Branches whipped my face. Rocks turned my ankles. "Rachel." Nothing. Just night sounds and my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Behind me, police lights painted the trees red and blue. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Rachel was out there. Hurt. Maybe dying. Because of my plan. I crashed through the woods for 20 minutes before police caught up. "Sir, stop. Hands where we can see them." I turned. 3 flashlight beams blinded me. "Someone's hurt." Rachel Turner. She was shot at. "Sir, you need to come with us." They led me back to the road. More police cars now. An ambulance. Crime scene tape. Then I saw who was in charge. Chief Morrison. Victoria's puppet. My heart sank. He surveyed the scene with bored eyes. Victoria stood by her SUV, looking perfectly composed. Her 2 men were nowhere visible. Morrison walked over to me. "Mr. Marcus, want to explain what happened here?" Victoria tried to burn my barn. Again, she brought 2 men with gasoline. They shot at Rachel Turner when she documented them. Morrison didn't even write it down. That's quite an accusation. I have video evidence. Obtained how? Were you trespassing? Recording without consent. I was on my own property. Actually, HOA easement rights grant access to. This is insane. She was ordering arson. Victoria stepped forward. Her voice was calm. Reasonable. "Chief, I came to conduct a late-night compliance inspection, which is within my rights. This man has been harassing me for weeks, making wild accusations. Tonight he appears to have staged some kind of incident." "That's a lie." Morrison held up his hand. "Mr. Marcus, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and harassment." "What?" "You have the right to remain silent." "She tried to burn my barn. She shot at Rachel." "I haven't fired a weapon," Victoria said calmly. "Check me for gunshot residue if you'd like." Of course she hadn't. Her hired men did. Morrison cuffed me, put me in his patrol car. Through the window, I watched Victoria smile. But what Morrison didn't know, what Victoria didn't know, was that everything auto-uploaded to cloud storage Rachel controlled. Every video, every audio file, every piece of evidence. Backed up, secure, ready. From the jail cell 3 hours later, I made my one phone call. Not to a lawyer. To Sarah Chun, investigative journalist from the state capitol. Rachel had given me her number weeks ago. "Sarah Chun. My name is Marcus. I have video evidence of HOA President Victoria Marsh ordering arson. It's uploaded to a secure server. Rachel Turner has the access codes." Silence. Then, "Send me everything. I'm in jail. But Rachel, I'll find her. If what you're saying is true, this story breaks tomorrow morning." She hung up. I sat in that cell all night, praying Rachel was alive, praying Sarah would follow through, praying this nightmare would end. At 6 a.m., a guard came to my cell. "You're free to go." "What?" "Some kind of mix-up." "Chief's orders." I walked out into morning sunlight. My phone had 47 missed calls. The first headline I saw made my knees weak. Local HOA president caught on video orchestrating arson. Sarah Chun had published everything. The footage of Victoria directing her men with gasoline cans was embedded in the article. Crystal clear audio. Her voice saying, "Make it look electrical." The story went viral within an hour. News trucks descended on Pine Ridge like locusts. By noon, FBI agents were interviewing witnesses. By 3 p.m., Victoria was arrested at her home, let out in handcuffs while cameras flashed. Her husband's development company offices were raided. County officials started resigning. Chief Morrison was suspended pending investigation. Everything was crumbling, but I still didn't know if Rachel was alive. I drove to every hospital within 50 miles. Nothing. For 3 days, I searched. Organized volunteer search parties. Combed the woods where she'd disappeared. Nothing. Day 4, my phone rang. Marcus. Rachel's voice. Weak, but alive. Where are you? County Hospital. Room 347. I broke every speed limit getting there. She was in bed. Ankle wrapped. Bruises on her face. But alive. She'd twisted her ankle running. Hidden in a cave for 3 days, terrified Victoria's men would find her. Hikers found her this morning. We did it, she whispered. I took her hand. We did it. Rachel spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering. I visited every day, brought her food from outside because hospital meals were terrible, sat with her during the FBI interviews. The investigation expanded like wildfire. 14 properties illegally acquired. Victoria had systematically targeted vulnerable families for 3 years. For $0.2 million in fraudulent development contracts. Bribery of 11 county officials. Conspiracy. Extortion. Racketeering. And now attempted arson. Assault. Her husband flipped immediately. Took a plea deal. Gave testimony against Victoria in exchange for reduced charges. The county records revealed everything. Victoria didn't target properties randomly. She had a system. Elderly homeowners who couldn't afford legal battles. Disabled veterans on fixed incomes. Single parents struggling financially. Recent immigrants unfamiliar with legal systems. People who couldn't fight back. She'd create impossible compliance standards. Find them into bankruptcy. Then offer predatory buyouts. 20 cents on the dollar for properties worth hundreds of thousands. Families who refused faced escalating harassment. False code violations. Anonymous complaints to child services. Vandalism blamed on accidents. She broke people systematically, methodically, cruelly. The victims started coming forward. I met with them in my barn, the new one that Victoria had tried so hard to destroy. An elderly man named George broke down crying. I thought it was my fault. I thought I was too stupid to understand the rules. It wasn't you, I told him. It was never you. A woman named Patricia lost her husband to a heart attack during Victoria's harassment campaign. The stress killed him. I know it did. A veteran named James, whose service dog was seized, just stared at the lake. I thought about ending it. After they took my dog, he was all I had. 15 families. 15 stories of systematic destruction. We filed a class action lawsuit. Not just against Victoria. Against her husband's company. Against the corrupt county officials who enabled her. Against everyone who participated in or turned a blind eye to this conspiracy. The lawsuit demanded $8.3 million in damages. But more than money, we demanded acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that what happened to us was real, was wrong, was criminal. Rachel slowly healed. Physically and emotionally. She moved into my guest cabin. We became partners in the truest sense. Not romantic. Something deeper. People bonded by shared trauma and shared victory. She started her own business again. Training rescue horses on property I helped her lease. Horses that had been abused, neglected, broken, just like us. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of us. Victoria's trial became regional news. Every day brought new revelations. More victims. More crimes. The prosecution presented our evidence. Videos, financial records, testimony from 15 families. Victoria showed no remorse. Her attorneys argued technicalities. Claimed she was simply enforcing HOA regulations. The jury saw through it. Guilty on 17 counts. Fraud. Extortion. Conspiracy. Attempted arson. Assault. The judge's face was stone when he delivered sentencing. Mrs. Marsh, you systematically exploited vulnerable people for personal gain. You weaponized bureaucracy to destroy families. You showed no mercy to others. This court will show you none. 12 years in federal prison. Her husband got 8. Chief Morrison was fired and charged separately. County officials who took bribes either resigned or were recalled by voters. The entire corrupt system collapsed. The class action lawsuit settled for $8.3 million. Divided among 14 families. It didn't fully restore what was lost. Money can't replace homes lived in for decades. Can't bring back George's peace of mind, or Patricia's husband, or James's sense of safety. But it was vindication. It was justice. The HOA was dissolved entirely. Its predatory covenants nullified by emergency county legislation. My property was finally, completely mine. No restrictions. No oversight. No Victoria Marsh. Just 8 acres of heaven. Green mountains. Crystal lake. Endless grass. The way it should have been from the beginning. I used my settlement money to finish the barn properly. 2,500 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake and mountains. Natural wood beams. Skylights that filled the space with golden light. It was the workshop I'd always dreamed of. I named it Rachel's Hope Workshop, because without her courage, her obsessive investigation, her willingness to risk everything, none of this would have happened. The grand opening was 3 months after Victoria's sentencing. 300 people showed up. Victims, supporters, neighbors, people who'd heard our story and wanted to witness the victory. Local news covered it. Regional papers sent reporters. Rachel cut the ribbon with shaking hands and tears streaming down her face. "This isn't just a barn," she said to the crowd. "This is proof that ordinary people can fight back against corruption and win." The applause echoed across the valley. Inside, I created a wall of photographs. Every family Victoria had targeted. Every victim who'd suffered. Not to dwell on pain, but to remember, to honor their stories. George stood in front of his photograph, crying quietly. His wife held his hand. Patricia touched her husband's picture and whispered something I couldn't hear. James brought his service dog, returned to him after Victoria's arrest. The dog's tail wagged as James scratched his ears. These were real people, real families, real lives that had been shattered and were now slowly healing. My business recovered. Better than before, actually. The story attracted national attention. People across America wanted to commission furniture from the man who'd stood up to HOA corruption. Orders poured in faster than I could fill them. I hired 4 employees, all victims of Victoria's schemes. Gave them jobs, dignity, fresh starts. George worked part-time, teaching traditional joinery techniques. Patricia managed my online sales and shipping. James handled my workshop equipment maintenance. His military precision made everything run smoothly. We weren't just making furniture. We were rebuilding lives. Rachel's horse rescue thrived. 30 horses saved and rehabilitated in 2 years. She had volunteers, donors, community support. Kids from town came to learn about horsemanship. Veterans participated in equine therapy programs. Her property, the one Victoria had stolen, was returned through the settlement. Rachel moved back home. We'd won, really won. But the victory extended beyond Pine Ridge. Rachel and I started the Pine Ridge Justice Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to helping other communities fight HOA corruption and predatory development. We'd consulted on 12 cases nationwide in the past year. Families facing similar situations reached out desperately. We taught them our strategy: meticulous documentation, community organization, strategic media engagement. We shared the evidence templates Rachel had developed, the investigation techniques, the legal approaches that worked. 3 cases had already resulted in criminal charges against corrupt HOA presidents. 5 more were in litigation. We were creating a playbook for resistance. Victoria remained in federal prison. Her appeals consistently denied. Her husband's company collapsed completely. The properties were either returned to original owners or sold through legitimate transactions. Pine Ridge transformed from a community paralyzed by fear into a symbol of what's possible when people refuse to accept injustice. New county officials were elected. Clean, accountable, transparent. Local businesses thrived without predatory development pushing them out. Families felt safe in their homes again. One evening, I stood on my workshop porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and purple. Rachel joined me, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Think we changed anything?" she asked. I thought about Victoria in prison, about 15 families getting justice, about communities across America learning they could fight back. "Yeah," I said. "We changed everything." She smiled. "Good." We stood in comfortable silence as stars began appearing over the lake. The valley was peaceful, beautiful, finally safe, the way it always should have been. 2 years after Victoria's arrest, I stand in my completed barn on a September morning that feels like grace. Golden sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows. The lake sparkles like scattered diamonds. Mountains rise green and eternal against a sky so blue it hurts. My business isn't just surviving. It's thriving beyond my wildest dreams. People across America commission my furniture, not just because of craftsmanship, but because they want to support the man who refused to surrender. Every table I build, Every cabinet I craft, every chair I shape from raw wood, they're not just furniture. They're proof that resistance works, that justice is possible, that ordinary people have extraordinary power. I've hired 7 employees now, all victims of Victoria's schemes or similar corruption in nearby counties. We're not just making furniture. We're building futures. George teaches woodworking classes every Saturday. Kids from town learn traditional techniques from a man who almost lost hope. Patricia manages our online presence. She's become a social media expert, sharing our story and connecting with other victims nationwide. James runs the entire workshop operation. His military discipline keeps us efficient, profitable, and growing. Rachel's horse rescue has expanded to 2 properties. 45 horses saved and rehabilitated. She offers free equine therapy for veterans with PTSD, hosts summer camps for at-risk kids, provides riding lessons for disabled children. Her property, stolen by Victoria, reclaimed through justice, is now a sanctuary. The Pine Ridge Justice Initiative has helped 19 communities fight HOA corruption. We've seen 8 HOA presidents arrested, 12 civil lawsuits won, hundreds of families protected from predatory schemes. We created a model that works. Documentation, organization, strategic media, legal coordination, community solidarity. Other activists have adopted our approach, modified it, improved it. The movement is bigger than us now. Victoria remains in federal prison, 10 years left on her sentence. I don't think about her often anymore. She's irrelevant. A cautionary tale, a reminder that power without accountability always corrupts. But the legacy she tried to leave, broken families, stolen homes, shattered communities, that legacy died with her freedom. The real legacy belongs to the people who fought back. To Rachel, who spent 2 years investigating alone when everyone said she was crazy. To Mr. Hendricks, who spoke up at that HOA meeting when others stayed silent. To every victim who testified, every witness who came forward, every person who said enough. On my workshop wall hangs a framed quote from my grandfather. Build things that last. Fight for what matters. Leave the world better than you found it. I read it every morning. My grandfather's tools, destroyed in Victoria's first arson, have been replaced by new ones. But I still feel his presence in this space. His wisdom, his integrity. He taught me that craftsmanship isn't just about skill. It's about character, about refusing to cut corners, refusing to compromise quality, refusing to accept injustice. I built a barn, but I also built something more important. A community that protects its own, a movement that empowers the vulnerable, a legacy of resistance. When people ask me if it was worth it, the fear, the financial risk, the sleepless nights, I don't hesitate. Every second was worth it, because I didn't just save my property. I helped save 14 other families. I exposed corruption that infected an entire county. I proved that ordinary people can defeat powerful criminals when they refuse to quit. That's the message I want to leave you with. If you're facing an HOA nightmare, if you're being targeted by corrupt officials, if you feel powerless against people with money and connections, you're not powerless. Document everything. Find allies. Build your case. Tell your story. Don't accept injustice just because fighting back is hard. Fight anyway, because you deserve to feel safe in your home. You deserve to be treated fairly. You deserve justice. And if this story inspired you, if it gave you hope or courage or just reminded you that resistance is possible, then do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you've ever faced HOA corruption yourself. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Together, we're building something bigger than any of us individually. A movement that says, enough. The barn door closes on my story, but it opens for yours. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about standing up to injustice, I need you to do something right now. Leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Share your own HOA story if you have one, or just let me know this resonated with you. Your engagement helps this message reach people who desperately need to hear it. Every comment, every like, every share creates ripples that protect someone else from corruption. Don't just watch and leave. Be part of this movement. Comment now.